Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Elephant in the room. This is really hard. And you'd far rather be doing other things than sharing a celebration of life and grieving the death of a friend and relative. This is hard. So can we just admit that and just say that our goal today is to grieve, to not recognize the fact that we're sad would be dishonest, would be inauthentic, and I'm not for those things. I'd rather be truthful and straightforward. At the same time, it was made very clear to me when by the way, my name is Eric. I'm a pastor in the area. Pam Babbitt goes to my church, and of course, she's a good friend of the family. So that's where I was asked to do the memorial service today, and it was made very clear to me when I spoke with the family that they wanted this to be as upbeat as possible, and certainly not a long affair as well, so don't have to worry about being long-winded today. But what we're going to do is we're going to celebrate the life of someone who was incredibly impactful to every person he met. And because of that, he will be greatly missed. So will you join me in that today, of course? As you know, very unexpectedly, Jerry, many of you call him Poppy, passed away last Sunday, the 4th of July, following surgery at the age of 79. He was born in Chicago in 1942. Jerry and Carmen married. Carmen was quoted as being the love of his life. I don't know if you got a little brochure, but the picture of two young hippies on the back is so cool. What a beautiful, beautiful picture. So they married March 25, 1985. They enjoyed many, many years together until his recent death. I want to just say on behalf of Carmen, William, and Kimberly, Sierra, and Ukiah, and others, thank you so much for coming today. Your presence this morning and the other expressions of kindness that have flooded the family over the last several days is nothing short of amazing. So thank you for holding their arms up, for serving them. In terms of Jerry's life and legacy, I'm sure you would agree with me that it was filled with many, many unusual and wonderful memories. He moved from Illinois to California, where he attended Beverly Hills High School, attended Santa Monica Community College. He served his country as a member of the Air Force from 63 to 69. Following his service in the military, he launched into a career as a professional race car driver. My understanding is that if it was loud and fast, he loved it. He loved water skiing and tubing and snowmobiling. His purchase of many jet skis and Sea-Doos and other things from Babbitt Sports Center led to a not just a good, faithful customer business relationship, but also a friendship. And I see Eddie's here today. Eddie, I understand he's worked at Babbitt's for several years doing different handyman jobs and things like that. And I will tell you that people like that are a rare breed that can do pretty much anything. I call them utility players. Jerry was incredibly generous. One of the tributes said, and I quote, that he had a heart of gold and he would help anyone with anything. Word has it that Jerry and Carmen loved their house in Spring Lake with no fences because they enjoyed being neighbors and getting to know the other neighbors. I understand that conversations with those people in the neighborhood and your barbecues and boat parties are things of legend. Very sadly, his family wrote these words: "He seemed to always be in good health until about 2 months ago. Then we lost him. He will be so missed." I'm sure that every one of you here today would heartily amen that statement. As many of you probably know, Jerry most readily identified with the Jewish religion. And in honor of this, I would like to read an English translation of a Hebrew prayer that was translated from the Aramaic. And if you're confused, just come back to the main menu now. It's called a Kaddish or a Kaddish. And it's a customary Hebrew prayer. And I just like to read that in honor of his Jewishness. Glorified and sanctified be God's great name throughout the world, which he has created according to his will. May he establish his kingdom in your lifetime and during your days, and within the life of the entire house of Israel, speedily and soon. May his great name be blessed forever and for all eternity. Blessed and praised, glorified and exalted, extolled and honored, adored and lauded be the name of the Holy One. Blessed is he beyond all the blessings and hymns, praises and consolations that are ever spoken in the world. May there be abundant peace from heaven and life for us and for all Israel. He who creates peace in his celestial heights, may he create peace for us and for all Israel. And it's customary for the crowd in a synagogue on the Shabbat to say together, Amen.
Amen.
The family asked if we would take just a few minutes and see if there would be any people that would want to just stand where they are. I guess standing is not a requirement. If you're like me and you can project, you can sit. But perhaps some brief stories of Jerry that might be of encouragement to the rest. So we'll give you just a few moments to do that. Yes?
May I come up and speak?
You can come up and speak. Yes, you can come here or speak wherever.
Jerry is an Aries, and I wonder if any of this would resonate with you in a description of who an Aries is. At their core, Aries do what they want and do things their way. They are unafraid of conflict, highly competitive, honest and direct. And Aries is not weighed down by the freedom of choice and is perhaps the sign that is least conflicted about what they want. They throw themselves at the world eagerly and without fear. It's one of their most commendable qualities. They're driven by a desire to prove themselves and their strength. They naturally take charge and are competitive and ambitious, and Aries are spontaneous and courageous. They have a sense of adventure and love to explore. They're determined and bold and are good at initiating new projects. They have high energy and can initiate quick actions. They can also be impatient, but are naturally active and don't like to waste time. That to me sounds like Jerry.
Yeah.
My family and I have known Jerry and Carmen for 50 years, and I consider Jerry like an older brother and uncle. And I'm going to miss him dearly. He's had so many tributes from around the world, hundreds and hundreds. If you read them, they're terrific, and they all say the same thing, that he had a heart of gold. And that whatever you wanted from Jerry, if he could give it, he would give it to you. And he'd give you a lot of advice whether you wanted it or not. And he was very strong-willed about that. I went through some of my challenges. I got divorced, and there was no better family to me. Even my own family wasn't as good as Jerry was in helping me through such a difficult time. So I want to say, Jerry, I love you.
I saw someone else standing back there, please.
Yeah, okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Carl. I've known Jerry for probably only 10 years, but it didn't take long to find out who he was and how great he was. We talked about heart of gold that goes beyond that. I was fortunate enough many years ago to become a liturgical minister for the Catholic Diocese of Grand Rapids. And in that role, I would go to the prison and do communion services, and I would teach religion, that sort of thing. And the one thing that comes up more than anything else in religious training is the word love. Not romantic love, but unselfish love. Jesus wanted us to love everyone so much that we would give them anything we could and expect nothing in return. I'm sure you've heard that before, but that was Jerry. He went beyond, he was just absolutely great to people. Let me give you a couple of quick examples here. We moved in the neighborhood of the Entins, became almost next door neighbors. Really loved it there so much that we invited family to come by and have a nice little barbecue. So, they came to 200 miles from the other side of the state, and we had a nice barbecue, and all of a sudden, there was Jerry, good old Jerry. Anybody want to take a ride around the lake? Come on. So a bunch of people hop in the boat, and away they go, and go all the way down to Fruitport and all the way back and get the full tour. He did that 4 times that day. Nobody expected it. I didn't know he was going to do that, but that's Jerry. He's always thinking of helping the other guy. That was really nice. Another thing, we had a fellow in the neighborhood, his name was Dale. Dale was a cripple, he had some physical handicaps, and Jerry would kind of go over there, nobody knew he was doing this, he'd go over there and help him build a 3-wheel bike so that Dale could get out of that house, get on the bike, and go up and down the trail. That's really cool. Anyway, I'd go down the trail on my bike and there'd be Dale on his 3-wheeler. It takes a lot to build something like that for a crippled person so they could actually pedal and go uphill and downhill safely. And I'd go down the trail and there's Dale. Smile like a smile button from this ear all the way to this ear. Happier now. It was really great. Those are 2 typical stories of Jerry. Just a wonderful guy. And it was all about his form of love, which fortunately is also God's form of love. He was going to pick one thing to be on this earth. He picked the right one. And I loved him very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Couple more? Nope, right up here.
Me?
Sure.
My daughter is back.
Come on down. You're the
We're
next
criers,
contestant.
So I'll just stand here. I'm sure you can hear me. A former teacher.
Okay.
I probably don't need it.
We're recording.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, this will be broadcast all over on USA Today and CBS and
Holly and Alex, can you just stand up a sec? I'll do the talking maybe. Those are the good neighbors of Jerry, and I'm Grandma Lexi. That's my grandson Alex and my daughter Holly. And they moved in next to Jerry and Carmen, how many years ago? Alex was 9, whatever that computes to. And wonderful neighbors they picked to live next to. And Grandma Nancy is over there with her daughter Sally. Grandma Nancy and I were the babysitter grandmas in the summer. I taught that I had summer off. Grandma Nancy could do it more than I did. We didn't have to do a thing. I'd show up at the house and here'd come Jerry and he entertained us.
where are the kids? They're off racing.
And Yuki and Sierra, they had to share Poppy
Yeah.
with Alex because he lived next door. It's just been a wonderful, wonderful. I could go on and on, but maybe, did you want to? No. Carmen, she'd love to. He would, you talked about Jerry walking in. It'd be Thanksgiving, we'd have a house full, and here comes Jerry, just through the back door, and of course we welcomed him, and I think they've shared foods back and forth and back. One time we were getting in the boat, and it's hard for Carmen to, go boating, and we said, gee, we're going up to Dockers for dinner. And Jerry saw us off, helped get the lines, and away we go. It wasn't a half an hour. Whenever we arrived, guess who arrived? Jerry and Carmen and Doctors and joined us for dinner. That's Jerry. He was everywhere. for everyone, everything. And is Scott golfing? Holly does have a husband, Alex has a dad, but he is a member guest today of all times. And you can't, how do you get out of a member guest when you have your partner golfing? So Scott said, I'll be there for the long haul.
Good.
That's it. Thanks for listening. We loved you.
Hi everyone, I'm Don Sanborn, and I'm here with our breakfast club Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock.
I wonder where this is going.
Well, Jerry was always there, and I was always nominated to make sure he had bacon and sausage. Carl is one of our group, but we always enjoyed him, and he was just a treat. And, his boats never went very fast, that's all I can say.
Right.
I'm sure I'll hear about it later.
I don't know if you've been to a lot of memorial services, but one of the things when a family says to me, "We'd like to have open mic," I always approach that from a mixed seal. I always default to whatever the family wants because it's really about their wishes, and I'll do pretty much anything. But I always have this like traumatic memory in the back of because I've been doing this thing for a bunch of years, and it gets crazy sometimes when people don't know what to say, or you say, "Does anybody want to talk?" and no one does. Awkward. But I just knew that this would be perfect because Jerry was a friend to so many, and it was such a mutual thing. What a giving guy. I feel cheated that I didn't know him. Well, let me. Oh yes, please.
Can I come up?
You can come up here, of course.
I'm going to bawl my eyes out, so I'm sorry. I'm his granddaughter, and I have a long speech, so I'm sorry. I'll probably, I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
We won't boo you. We're gonna take as much time as you want.
Okay. Well, Poppy was, as you all know, the most generous person anyone knew. He would always put everyone first, even if he literally just met him 2 seconds ago. If someone, sorry, I'm gonna butcher this. Poppy was also known for his love of water activities. He had my brother and I out whipping around on the Cetus with him practically from the moment we were born. Anytime I brought a friend over to Grandmommy and Poppy's home, he'd have to teach them how to water ski instantly. I remember there's so many times where he would just whip out the water skis, throw my friend on the ground, and try to drag him through the grass. You could never say no to him. After the water ski lessons, he'd take us tubing, and he would pick up any kid on the lake who wanted to come. If we needed an observer, he would ask for a random person to come be the observer. As all my friends can attest to, tubing with Poppy was terrifying. One of my best friends, Nora, broke her tooth while tubing with him. It was fun, but so scary. If someone fell off, when he'd whip around to come back and pick them up, he'd be cracking up dying and just like reminiscing on how high we flew, how hard we fell. He loved it so much.
Killed another one.
Exactly. Recently I moved out to California, and it was a spontaneous decision, but instantly Poppy booked a flight down to Florida and helped me drive out there. I kept telling him, I'm like, "Poppy, you don't need to come down, like, I can do this on my own," but he kept saying he didn't want me to be alone in case something happened, and luckily I had him there because I'm sure he told so many of you guys that we hit a crazy ice storm in Texas. I feel like I heard him tell that story 50 times. But without him, I don't know, honestly, how I would have gotten through that. And my brother is actually about to move out there, and he was about to do the same with Ukiah, so I'm sure they would have had crazy stories too. Also, on that road trip, I learned so much about Poppy that I had no idea about. He's had some crazy stories. But yeah, it was an awesome trip, and I'm so grateful for that. When I think about the kind of marriage I want to have someday, I immediately think of Poppy and Grandma Me. You guys, the love you have is perfect, and it's something that will never be broken. Even though Poppy snored extremely loud, I know Grandma Me, you loved him more than anything, and Grandma Me, you were a perfect angel in Poppy's eyes. Whenever we'd come over to the house, we'd just be hollering at each other, calling them like, my dear, my darling, and I just think it's the cutest thing ever. Poppy will always be showering that love on our family and for Grandma Me forever. Poppy, the amount of people's lives you touched and changed is way too many to count. You were and will always be such an amazing man. You're my role model, my idol, and my favorite person in the entire universe. You're one of a kind and a legend. I love you forever and ever, Poppy.
Thank you, Sarah. Was that the ice storm from a couple months ago? So I have a story too. So we have a daughter and son-in-law who lived for 10 years in Chicago. They moved to Austin, Texas a little over a year ago, and then guess what hit, right? So the problem is they kidnapped our granddaughter. They had the nerve to take their daughter with them to Texas. All jokes aside, it's been fun because we've had a chance to visit them a number of times down in Austin, especially since Allegiant has this Grand Rapids to Austin direct flight. So little Winslow lives down there, and my wife flew down to have them all road trip to go to Costa Rica, and they got caught in a foot of snow in Austin. Everything shut down, so I feel you on that one. It was terrible. Winslow was freezing, but they made it. They were getting ready to go to Costa Rica to see our newly married other daughter and son-in-law down there. So I hope I can be a papa like Poppy was. It was fun. Winslow got her first ride a couple days ago. We rented a pontoon boat from Coops. I call it Coops, but you know, dockside. And we took Winslow out on Spring Lake for her first boat ride for 4th of July. That was really fun.
How old is she?
She's 20 months,
Oh.
going on 18. No, she's tons of fun. It was a big boat, and Winslow just loved it. But I hope I can be a papa that she really grows to know and love too. Well, I wanna wrap things up by going once again back to the Old Testament, reading and making some brief comments on some verses from Psalm 90. Psalm 90. It would be certainly in the liturgy for those who are of the Jewish faith. The Psalms are recognized as authoritative and inspired by the Christian community as well. And even if you're not particularly religious or you don't fall into one of those two categories, you're welcome here, of course. And I think you'll appreciate the beautiful prose and the poetic nature of the section from Psalm 90 that I'm going to read. Lord, you have been our dwelling place in all generations. Before the mountains were brought forth, or you ever formed the earth and the world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. You return man to dust and say, return, O children of man. For 1,000 years in your sight are but as yesterday when it is past, or as a watch in the night. You sweep them away with a flood. They are like a dream, like grass that is renewed in the morning. In the morning it flourishes and is renewed. In the evening it fades and withers. And I'm jumping down to verse 12, which is switching from talking to God about his attributes to a prayer from one's heart. So teach us to number our days that we may get a heart of wisdom. I often speculate if we could have one final conversation with a person who slipped into eternity. We wish we had one more day, one more ride on a Sea-Doo, one more fill in the blank with whatever your thing was with Poppy, with Jerry. What would they say to us? And I realize that I'm a bit speculative here, but I think the first thing that they would say, now that they have the benefit of being in eternity, I think they would say, first of all, recognize God as creator and sustainer and sovereign. God created everything, and the few words from that psalm paint that picture. God's not just the creator, he's eternal. Think about what would life be like if you existed in an indivisible present. That will just blow your mind. Somebody whose existence transcends time and space and everything that we can imagine. So God willed the universe in existence. He sustains it. He created it. He made us, and he did so very graciously, and he provides for us not just grace through times of adversity, but he gives us much beauty and much grandeur in the creation. Recognize God as creator, sustainer, and sovereign. The second thing I think Jerry would say is life goes fast. Life goes fast. In contrast with the idea that God is an eternal being, we are people of time. And man, just like, where does time go? Last Sunday, my wife and I celebrated our 40th anniversary, and I remember our wedding day like it was yesterday. And now you blink and 4 decades have passed. And I was telling some of the family earlier when they were asking a little bit about me, I was saying that for about 4 or 5 months now I've been stalked by the government because you're turning 65 and you get to be on Medicare. And of course every insurance carrier in the world wants you to like sign up for Part B with them, right? They make all these promises and things. I'm thinking, when did I get old? Maybe I'm not old, maybe it's just an illusion. But what I can't shake is this sense of how quickly time goes. So, recognize God as creator and sustainer of the universe. Be cognizant of the fact that life goes very quickly. I think a third thing that he would say is be sure that you understand where you stand before God. And I'm not going to preach a sermon to you, but the idea of wrestling with the question, is there even a God? And if so, how does he, she, it reveal one's self? Is it in creation? Is it in conscience? Is it in a holy book? And of course, many people, myself included, would believe that God's revealed many things for us to know in a document called the Bible, the Old and New Testaments. And in it is this great plan of redemption because it shows the fallenness of humankind, the fact that we blow it, we mess up, we're imperfect, we're sinful, a word people don't like to use today. But in the same breath that we learn that that's part of what it means to be human, we learn that God and his love and his grace exponentially overshadow that. And he evidenced that by sending someone named Jesus to die 2,000 years ago. And I don't understand all of that, but incarnate being, the God-man, could suffer all of the hell and all the punishment and all the eternal wrath that we deserve because we're people who rebel against God, and do that in my place, so that if I accept that means of redemption, the price for my soul's ransom is paid in full. And I could speak on this for hours, and I won't. But I think one of the things Jerry would say is be sure you know where you stand before God. And certainly we invite those conversations. And I think the fourth and final thing is he would say, like he did so well, not that he would necessarily hold himself up in a prideful manner as the model for investing in others, but I think he did a pretty good job from everything that I've heard. And I think he would say, what really counts in life? And I think the answer to the question would be love God, love people, love God, love people. So, to wrap up this section, and then I'll have a committal prayer, and then we'll be done. From Psalm 90, God is creator, sustainer, sovereign. Life is very, very fast. Even some of you young people, you probably are feeling a little bit of that right now. Be sure you know where you stand before God, and invest in loving God and loving people with all of your heart and soul and mind and strength, because those are the investments that make a difference. Those are the investments that last. Would you join me in a brief word of prayer? Our Father and our God, it is with a mixture of tears and sorrow and shock and sadness and grief, and yet a sense of settledness and trust and faith that we commend Jerry, body, soul, and spirit, to his Creator and his Sustainer. Thank you for the powerful impact he had on virtually every life here this morning. And thank you for the imprint that he left on his people in his circle, his family and friends. And though he was not perfect, I thank you that it's with great confidence we can commend him to the one who loved his soul and our souls enough to send Jesus to die in our place. We're so grateful. And when his friend Lazarus died, and he said to Lazarus's sisters, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will never die. May those be truths that we hold on to with great tenacity. And it's my humble prayer that you would give grace to help in time of need, not just today, this week, but in the days and months to come. We pray these things with gratitude. Amen.
Thanks, Pastor Stratton, for your ministry to the family today, and on behalf of Carmen, Sierra, Ukiah, and Kim and William, I'd like to thank each and every one of you. In a moment, we're going to the cemetery, and William said anyone can show up at Spring Lake Cemetery, so you're all invited. We're going to go informally. Our staff will place his casket in the hearse in a little after everyone exits due to the size crowd that we have here. So I'll begin dismissing the side room, and then Sandy will have a tray there, and please take one. I think she's going to run out, but Pastor Stratton said they're very good, some cookies in memory of Poppy. So
Heidi baked those.
So Heidi baked them. So if she'll give you your number if you need them for any receptions, and I've heard they're wonderful. So thank you.